let's take it from here to the Pan-African marketplace. You've heard a story about the foreign portfolio investors exiting Nigeria, 130.98 billion naira in the month of May. Well, you think the Nigerian market is down? Yes, but not out. The all-share index remained cheap in terms of valuation multiples. If you know how to read the market, I'll show you some of the numbers. If you know how to read it, you know what it means. The Nigerian market is currently trading at a price to earnings of 10.7 multiples and a price to book value of 1.7. That's much lower than the rest of the other major markets on the continent. I talk about Nigeria in West Africa. If you move all the way to Egypt, where you see the EGX, and you see that on the EGX 30, that's the benchmark index for the Egyptian stock market. Price to earnings, what they call the PE ratio of 16.0 multiple, and a price to book value of 2.6. That's much higher than Nigeria. It means Nigeria markets still have a bit of an upside to trade in terms of valuation. Look at the Kenya market, the largest east of the continent, benchmark NSE 20 at a price to earnings of 14.8 multiple and the price to book value of 2.2. Multiples. Then you look at Morocco, which is also big in North Africa. The Casablanca market index at a price to earnings of 18.8 multiples and a price to book value of 2.4 multiples. So if you're looking at the Nigerian market, you see a bit of a room there for growth despite foreign portfolio investors voting with their legs, of course, exiting the frontier markets, Nigeria, alongside other major emerging markets on the continent, like South Africa, also dipping a little bit. Last week, we finished off on Friday, the South African market, GSE, all-share index finished 50,244 reading, down by 0.8%. Nigeria lost 0.62% week on week. The Egyptian market, which of course closed on Thursday, because Friday is a public holiday in Egypt with the rest of the GCC, that index, the EGX 30, finished off at 15,879. You can see the reading there in the second line. That's a negative 0.46%. The only green shoot we had is a small 0.03% from the market in Ivory Coast. That's the BRVM, the regional market for the 8 securities exchanges, Francophone, 8 French-speaking West African countries, putting all their stocks in one basket in Abidjan, and that stock exchange is called the BRVM. Let's take it up from there and look at what the African Development Bank, the AFDB, is doing for small and medium enterprises on the continent. Usually it's all the big boys and the big names in the world of business. Now the AFDB says they've got a program working with securities exchanges on the continent to get the medium and small enterprises to go through the debt market and list on the securities exchanges as a way of growing them and carrying everybody along. This was the conversation I had a few days ago with Kilonzo, who is a senior director in charge of Africa Investment Forum at the AFDB. Take a listen. Yes, Stella, how does the debt capital market on the African continent fit into the Africa Investment Forum objectives?
We have been in engagement with the Africa Stock Exchange Association. As you know, Oscar Onyema from Nigeria Stock Exchange, is actually the president of the Africa Stock Exchange Association. We know a lot of countries have been going to the debt market, especially in Africa, to undertake both the countries as well as the private sector to undertake capital raising. What we are saying is that the Africa Investment Forum is really an opportunity for the countries or the private sector to come and actually pitch their debt instruments there and their capital raising, so that even if it's going to be listed on Nigeria Stock Exchange, it's really an opportunity to present this product and your company to the investors there. And what we like is that most of the investors who are, the likes of pension funds, the likes of hedge funds, are saying that for some of their comfort, especially the international ones, they'd want to invest in a listed instrument, but they don't have the time to keep going to each and every country in Africa to understand what is their security profile. So we will have done that homework and provided that homework in terms of the presentation and the structured way of presenting the securities that are available. So that's one area. But as I said, for us, it's really an opportunity for the issuer to use the Africa Investment Forum as a roadshow, as their roadshow. Instead of going to 5 countries, even if it's a Eurobond, instead of going to 5 cities in the US or in London, you can come there and actually have your roadshow there, and you'll be able to attract both the international as well as the local investors.
In terms of the medium and small enterprises, are there initiatives of the EFDB or under the Africa Investment Forum that would bring the debt market into the whole entire arrangement?
Yes, the Africa Development Bank is really working on an initiative currently where we are looking at being able to issue what you call the basket of bonds. This is an initiative we are working with the London Stock Exchange Group as well as the Elite. As you know, this year the bank was able to actually undertake work with the Elite where we sponsored SMEs about, it was a technical assistance grant, but for the BRVM we were able to sponsor about 10 SMEs to be able to get to join what you call the Elite program, which is pioneered by the Elite group and the London Stock Exchange. It's really novel for Africa because Casablanca has been at the forefront of this. The Casablanca Stock Exchange, they have had several cohorts in this program and we really like it. So Casablanca Stock Exchange, being a cohort, signed an MOU with the BRVM, and so these 10 SMEs were identified. So the idea for us is really to now work together and be able to identify the funding needs of these SMEs and be able to issue one bond for maybe about 10 SMEs that would enable them to be able to access the capital markets using also a guarantee structure maybe from the bank and others as well. And once this is done, then that capital raising could actually now be split up into the various funding needs of the SMEs. This would be very instrumental because when you look at what other the SMEs, all the SME platforms have been there, but most that has happened in the Africa SMEs has mostly been just listing or an IPO, but we've not seen, the capital raising on a debt level, which we really need to scale up.
Do you think there will have to be something, a program specific to Nigeria under this arrangement?
In this regard, as I said, this is the Africa Investment Forum. What we are doing is we are convening, we are a catalyst, we are a convener. So we have to engage with the Nigeria Securities Exchange through our financial team so that we can make this also a reality for the Nigeria SMEs and MSMEs. But this is really a proof of concept. It's about proving the concept and then bringing it here to Nigeria and working very closely to get that to happen as well.
Stella Kilonzo, Senior Director in charge of Africa Investment Forum at the EFDB, wrapping up the show for us this week. Thank you for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye from Lagos.